Okay, hello, this is Max working on discussion 8, spring 2015, CS61A. We're doing scheme, and we're asked to write a scheme function that, when given a list, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, duplicates every element in the list and returns like 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Okay, and so this is going to be another, it's sort of, again, we've seen this before, this is going to be another sort of recursive function, right? Tends to be the MO. So there's only really one potential base case that we can have. If we're going to process this list, if we're going to continue processing this list, sort of the quintessential list base case is to check whether or not we have an empty list. So if I get passed in an empty list, what should I return? So it makes sense that I should return just an empty list, right? This would also be, you'd also be fine just writing list here. Okay, so let's say I'm not given an empty list, I'm given something like 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, what could I do here? So if I'm not given an empty list, I know it has at least one element. So the way I would approach this is I can only ever access, so just a quick reminder, people who have seen this, lists are sort of written like this, right? I can only ever access a car and a cutter. Cutter is just going to be a pointer to the rest of the list. So here, what I really want to do is I want to make a list that has, and I'm making a new list again, I'm not modifying a list. I'm making a list that has just this whatever first element, whatever car element that I have twice in a row. Okay. Followed by the rest of the list doubled. So that's sort of how the recursion is going to go. It sort of makes sense. You can sort of just see that this is a natural way that the recursion goes. All right, so let's see, how do we actually implement that? That's sort of the next question, right? Well, how do I make lists? So I always cons something, right? And so I'm going to cons the first element of my list, car list. And so this is going to create the first element of the list. It's going to create this thing right here. And now I'm sort of in a sort of a strange situation. I need to sort of make a second set of lists, right? So I need to make a second set of list that has as its first element, a second list that has as its first element the item 1, and as the rest of it, a doubled version of the list that I was originally given, the rest of the list I was originally given. And we can do that by writing, we have to create a new list that has two elements, this element 1 and the rest of the list. And so we'll do another cons here that's going to be car list, followed by the rest of the list doubled. So let's duplicate, and we're going to cutter, I'll do this on a separate line. So first element is going to be the first element of our original list, and the second element is going to point to a doubled version of the original list that we were passed in, and we can simplify that a little bit by writing duplicate the rest of the list, where the rest of the list is cutter list. Make sure all parentheses line up. We'll forget about this. This parenthesis lines up with this parenthesis lines up with this. And this is all in one great big outer list, which is what our cons is going to remind us of. Okay, and this seems to handle all of our potential cases. So if I get passed in an empty list, there's nothing to duplicate, so I just return an empty list. Otherwise, I'm going to create a list that has the first element in there twice, which is what I'm doing here. I'm consing the first element with a new list that has the first element a second time, and with the rest of the list duplicated. This is sort of a pretty quick question. If you have any questions about this, feel free to leave a comment on YouTube or on Piazza, and we'll get your questions answered. Great. Thanks so much for watching.